When it comes to it's people who are experiencing homelessness, what are some of the signs that you've seen of someone heading down the path that ends in not having a home?
Not having enough money, having a job where they work tirelessly and the cost of living is going up, wages are not going up. It's kind of really sad. Most of our friends who are experiencing chronic poverty are working more, harder jobs, odder hours, long hours, the odd hours, having to rely on public transportation that is not free, that does not run on the weekend, which is when most of our friends can get the shifts that they need, because others who get to choose don't want to work the Saturday, the Sunday. But the individuals who have the opportunity to work those may not have transportation, drug habits, alcoholism, where those habits have become a way to cover the hurt, or whatever may be causing them to feel uncomfortable. It may relieve that, so they may lean on that habit more. Lack of ability to manage money, generational poverty. Some of our friends have no idea how to manage money. Some of our friends, when they receive money, they want to spend it today, not planning ahead, to pay their bills and those kind of things. So probably some of the signs literally would be just honestly everyday life of the hardship of not having enough money to make ends meet. And then you start picking and choosing, robbing from Paul to pay Peter. And before you know it, you've ended up losing all avenues of monetary, support. And then most of the time when they go into the programs, once you get into a program, it becomes a codependency. And so trying to get out of that, then also there's a huge gap. And the gap is widening. So although we at the Level Center have stepped in to try to close that gap, we're like this trying to close that gap. Offsetting cost of living with opportunities to come to the Level Center. So I really just think when we see it happening, it's really just, I don't know if you can imagine what it would be like to have a job, to be working really hard, maybe to be mistreated in your job, to not be able to make your rent, what you would feel like. And in response to how you feel, then what you would turn to. So from an addiction standpoint,
Explain the idea behind the membership-based program as opposed to using other ways of helping people.
Membership program really stems from belonging. It's like belonging to Reds. It's like belonging to Costco. We actually give out cards. The cards say the Level Center, you are a member. We really speak more in a family perspective. We're part of the family now, right? But the card is a reflection of ownership. It creates a sense of value and purpose that I belong, that this is my home. So it's really just trying to create that unity of you're not alone in the world, you're not an outcast in the world, you belong here.
I noticed earlier you used the word friends when referring to the people that you help. What kind of relationships have you formed running the hub?
Oh my goodness. Heartbreaking relationships. I absolutely love each and every person that God brings in there. And I don't know if you can, I don't know if that's hard to believe or not, but there's just a sense of connection that comes when you can sit down with someone, look them in the eyes, and really just hear their heart. One of the problems that I had as an individual person myself was I showed people that I loved them by giving them gifts, usually spending money. And when I changed jobs, that could not happen. And I remember really struggling, like how are the people that I love going to know I love them? And God revealed to me it's time. No one ever wanted my money anyway. No one ever wanted my gifts anyway. Don't mistake the fact I'm sure my kids didn't mind. But in the end, people want your time. They want your attention. And so when the Lord revealed that to me, I was so blessed to be able to sit and visit with the members that come. When I would go out on the streets and do the street walks and talk to our friends, just it became a place where I could allow them in and love them by simply looking them in the eye and listening. Not necessarily having anything to say and not having to fix anything. I'm just here for you to listen. So they are my friends, and I would do anything for them.
Do you remember several years ago when the city put up these red signs all across town? The signs said, "Panhandling is not safe, change the way you give." And then it also had a hotline number for people to call. What was your reaction to those signs?
I don't think I can say it. No. It was very disheartening. I respect not forwarding on the ability of true panhandling. It's not right? There are people who are just panhandlers. They simply stand on the road, they take your money, they go home and live in a house, and they have a car, and life is beautiful, and they play on people's sympathy and your empathy towards people who appear to not have. For me, I wish the sign would have read a little less harsh, from a sense of not saying that panhandlers themselves are bad people, because a lot of my friends do panhandle to pay for a hotel room to keep their child from being on the street, or panhandle to make sure they're not on the street. They pay for hotel rooms. So it was very disheartening in the way in which it rolled out. I wish that it could have been less harsh in its verbiage and really granted more of, hey, you're a generous community. We know you want to give. Let's try to give in a different avenue. But the intentionality behind the sign was to stop panhandling, and that's the right of every human being to be able to ask for money. You can't stop someone from doing that. So it was a little difficult. Had mixed feelings. I respect that at the time that the sign was put up, things were shared with me that we had a drug problem. That's back when things were running pretty hard and heavy with the drugs being handed out, and the drug dealers were using our homeless friends to do that. So yes, there was that avenue that paralleled. So I can understand being responsible, but it also created a sense of fear and created a sense of separation, to where those people and us in the world that I live in the world that I hope that the Lord creates here, there's no those, there's us. We're all in this together, So I felt like the signs were harsh.
I think everyone's been in a situation where they saw someone on the side of the road panhandling, or maybe they were walking in the streets and someone comes up to them asking for money. Everyone's probably been in a situation like that. I know for me, I've been asked several times, not just for money, but maybe just for food. And I'm totally okay with buying someone a meal, buying someone water. That's like a basic necessity. What would you say is the right strategy in those situations?
I'll tell you what I do. I don't know if it's the right strategy. We're all different in how we view things. But for myself, I feel like being able to look someone in the eyes and acknowledge that they're there. If you're capable of having a conversation, say, hey man, how you doing? What's going on? We have cards at the hub that you can take. And one of the things that I share at the end of my talks is, if you see someone, my challenge is for you to look them in the face and say hello. Because the one thing that is affirming is that you see someone. The person standing in the corner asking for something is not beneath you. Right? So just acknowledge that they're there. Smile. Hello, how you doing? Peace out, whatever. But if you want to give them something, you can give them the card to the Level Center and say, hey, I don't have anything for you, but this place does. Because I have found a lot of people try to avoid those situations because they don't have anything to give. Or maybe the person's rude to you when you don't give them something. They can flip you off. I mean, my talk is, well, just tell thanks for calling me number one. What does it matter? Right? But to be able to offer the individual that you meet, the person that you come across, a place to get their needs met, is what God has called us to do. If you feel led by the Holy Spirit that you want to give them money, do so. It's not up to you how they spend that money. But for me, I'll tell them where the hub is. I'll give them a card to the hub, and I'll say, hey, come meet me there on Tuesday nights. And once we get them there on Tuesday nights, then we can help them with food, clothing. If they're looking for shelter, we can put them in contact with someone who can, because we don't do shelters. We don't have the ability to place people in shelters. We just have contacts with people that we reach out to. But we can help get them set on the right path if that's what they're looking for. So if you want to bring someone a meal, I think nothing is more beautiful than to sit down and eat with someone you don't know. Absolutely love that. The reason we do community meal at the Level Center is because everyone has conversation when they eat. You and I can sit down together, not know each other. We may not talk at all, but if we brought out something to eat before it was over with, I'm sure we would talk, because the food would be the distraction that took away the awkwardness between you and I, which would allow us to have conversation. Which is why family dinners are always so important, right? That's why moms are always like, put your phone down, just come and sit, everybody have family dinner, right? Because that connection occurs over the relaxation of some distraction. And although food is a distraction in this situation, it helps aid the ability to have a conversation.